Several years ago, I was doing a TV interview on KTLA in Los Angeles for one of my books, How Rich People Think. And a famous movie director saw me on the show, called the station, and contacted me. And we were talking, and he said, you know, I've seen some of your books before. I like your story. I'm interested in possibly doing a movie on the story of your life as Bill Gove's student that became a successful author and a speaker. So that was pretty cool. So we met the next day, and sort of the fast forward the story, he said, well, we need to meet a few more times to see if this is something that would work in movie form. And so we started meeting. And then one day he said, you know what, I want to take you to the Oscars as my guest. He had won an Oscar in 1973 for a movie called American Cowboy. His name's Kieth Merrill. And so when you win an Oscar, you get 2 tickets every year to attend the Oscars. And so he invited me to the Oscars. So I was the first professional speaker that I knew of to be invited to the Oscars. So that was pretty cool. And we walked in the red carpet the first year with Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones. I ended up going 2 years in a row. But the first year we walked the red carpet with Michael Douglas, Catherine Zeta-Jones. And he introduced me to all these movie stars. It was really a cool thing. So we went to the ceremony, and at the end of the Oscars, we went up to there's a room. They call it the limo line, but basically it's this room that's blocked off that only these movie stars and these famous people can get into. And so I was with this famous director, so we got in, and you can't leave. You can't just walk out of the Kodak Theater after the Oscars. They won't let you. You either have to have a limo come up or have to have a car parked somewhere. And we were staying right down the street. I was staying right down the street. He was actually driving back to his house. And I was staying right there in Hollywood, and so I could literally have walked to the Oscars. Well, you can't. They won't let you. They fence it off. The security is insane. If you've ever been there, you know what I'm talking about. It's like they're guarding the White House or something. It's the nuttiest thing in the world. But anyway, so you've got to be driven. So we got driven. There was like a block, and so we're in this limo line in this room with this pretty small room with about 50 of the biggest movie stars in the world. And so Leonardo DiCaprio was there. I remember Matthew McConaughey, Dustin Hoffman, who was cracking everybody up, and all these big names. And the person I really wanted to meet was Jennifer Aniston, because I've always had a thing about Jennifer Aniston, you know, like a lot of people. And I'd seen her. She presented on stage. And so I saw her from the seats, of course, but I wanted to meet her, and I knew he could introduce me to her. And so we walk in, and Halle Berry is right there. You know, I love Halle Berry. She's fantastic. Everybody loves Halle Berry, I think. And so we started talking to her, and he introduced me to Halle Berry, and we're talking to her for a while, you know, because this limo line, you got to stand there for like an hour. And so we're talking to her for a long time, and she was just wonderful. She was fantastic. We had a great conversation with her about, you know, women in Hollywood and, you know, what it was like to get started in Hollywood and the struggles and everything. You know, and I told her about being a speaker and, you know, being an author and that kind of thing. We were going back and forth, and she was absolutely so delightful and down to earth and just as nice as she possibly could be. So here's the rest of the story. So we're standing there and having this great conversation with Halle Berry, and took some pictures and that type of thing. And behind me walks Jennifer Aniston, and with her husband at that time. And so I thought this is be great to meet her and everything. And she looked exhausted. She's actually really small. All these movie stars that I've seen, I've been backstage with at conventions and TV stations around the world. They're all tiny people. I don't know what it is about movie people, but they're all little. They look bigger on screen, or at least to me. And they're all small. Jennifer Aniston, she's not that big. I mean, I thought she was much larger, or not large, but bigger than she was. So anyway, and Halle Berry's tiny. And I wrapped my arm around her to take a picture, and it's like wrap your arm around her whole body. It was crazy. So Jennifer Aniston walks in, and I wanted to talk to Jennifer Aniston, but Halle Berry was so engaging, and she was so fun to talk to, and she was so nice. and we were kind of at the back of the limo line, and I turned around to see Jennifer Aniston, and she looked like she didn't want to talk to anyone, probably being that famous. She's probably exhausted. That ceremony, the Oscars, goes on for, like when you're there, you got to be in your seat an hour early, and then you end up sitting there for like 5 hours. It's crazy, and so it's a long process. So she looked exhausted, and so I wanted to talk to her, but we were talking to Halle Berry. I didn't want to be rude. And afterwards, I said to Kieth, I really want to talk to Jennifer Aniston. And he goes, you're probably the only guy in the history of the world that's having a one-on-one conversation with Halle Berry for a half an hour, who's absolutely one of the nicest people in Hollywood, he said, and you're thinking about talking to a girl who's standing behind you, Jennifer Aniston. I go, well, it's Jennifer Aniston. He goes, well, still, it's Halle Berry, right? He said, you're the only guy that ever talked to Halle Berry that was thinking about talking to some other girl. And I said, well, maybe. But it was great. It was a lot of fun. And that's the thing about professional speaking. The places it will take you. Unbelievable. I mean, public speaking, giving speeches, and writing books in this, in the nonfiction genre, literally has taken me all over the world, introduced me to senators, politicians, the president of the United States, movie stars, singers, dancers, just everybody you can think of. It catapults you into a world that if you're a normal person, if you're just a regular normal person like me, all of a sudden you're hanging out, or at least associating at some level, with all these people that are doing these unbelievable things that you watch on TV and in the movies and in Washington. And it still kind of blows my mind. I mean, I've got 25 years of stories like this that without being a speaker, I wouldn't have met any of these people. I certainly wouldn't have met Halle Berry. I certainly wouldn't be at the Oscars. I certainly wouldn't have traveled all over the world, talking to groups and whatnot. I just think that public speaking is the most underrated skill. If the average person really understood, especially the average business person or professional, really understood how valuable this skill is, even beyond the money. What it does to your reputation, what it does to your business, it's hard to overstate, and almost nobody uses it. It's just the craziest damn thing in the world. I had no idea how big a deal it was when I first got started as a speaker. I really didn't. But now, 25 years later, I look back at my career, and I just can't believe the things I've been able to do, the people I've been able to meet, and the businesses we were able to grow because this skill got me in the door. I mean, if I wasn't a speaker, How Rich People Think wouldn't have been as popular as it was. I wouldn't have been on KTLA being interviewed on that show, which I've been on, 10 times probably over the years. And a famous movie director wouldn't have seen me on TV and invited me to the Oscars, where I met Halle Berry and and a lot of other movie stars as well. But on that, in that particular story, Halle Berry, it's just amazing. So if you're a speaker, keep pushing. If you're not a speaker, consider becoming one. I don't mean just a paid speaker, but you don't have to be a paid speaker, but just someone that gets out there and talks to groups. It will elevate your credibility in your career like nothing else I've ever seen in my life. Something to think about.